Okay, today we are going to continue to paint our landscapes. You are going to get a tray with all of the paints, all the colors in white in them. When you're using paint, you only need to load a little bit on the tip of the brush. So for example, if I'm using the yellow, I'm going to just dip the tip of the brush into the yellow and then decide where I want to use that color. And I can keep dipping into that color, but I know I can spread that out and control that paint if I only have a little bit loaded onto my brush. I can also dip my brush into the white to make a little bit of a lighter hue or a lighter color. And if I need to smooth out the paint a little bit, I can use a teeny bit of water, and all you need is to just dip the tip of the brush in the water too. That kind of thins out the paint, so it kind of smooths it out a little bit more to get around some of the corners or some of the edges. Now this one I had painted already some polka dots. I'm going to just use a little bit more of that paint kind of inside of here. I think that was overlapping right here. I don't really need to rinse out my brush because, as you can see, I don't have a lot of brush loaded on my paint. So let's say I want to use some orange. I can just dip my brush right in that orange and I can paint on top of my yellow where I had these polka dots already painted. I'm going to just paint a few more of those. And it's okay if some of them mixed together. That looks kind of neat. Now I have orange already on my brush loaded on, so I could probably decide maybe I want to paint this little part some orange. Kind of get some of that on there. If I needed to smooth it out, I would dip my brush in the water. Again, I'm not swishing my brush in the water, but you can tell how that just kind of, it thins the paint out so I can spread it a little bit more easily, especially around some of these areas that I don't want to go too fast. I can get a little bit more. Maybe I want to add a little bit of white into there. I'm dipping that brush in the white, kind of create that light orange color. And I haven't necessarily had to rinse out my brush completely yet because, again, I'm just using the orange and the yellow. So let's say now I can go back here. I'm going to use some red, get that all painted in red. I'm going to go slowly next to the edges. If I need to thin out the paint, I'm just going to get a little bit of water to thin that out. And then when I am finished with this red, I do need to rinse out my brush because I want to go back to the yellow. And since the red is such a dark hue, I cannot do that now because I have red. So now I do have to give it a really good swirl in the water to be able to get that completely cleared out. Just kind of wipe it against the side there. And I'm just going to use the white now to paint on top of some of these. I had some stripes here, so I just want to have those to be white. It's going to mix a little bit to create kind of that pink tint. All right, and then when you're finished, you can kind of move on to the different colors that you want to use. You can overlap some of your other colors. I did overlap some of my purple with red. You might decide you want to overlap some others, but you can kind of see the different cool colors and then warm colors near the top. And then next week we're going to take some black and outline some of our patterns, and this will be hopefully finished.